Hello students, how are you? I hope you all are fit and fine. So dear students, as you all are aware that we are doing revision of all the chapters of term 1. So in this series of revision, today we are going to revise poem 3, Keeping Quiet, written by Pablo Neruda. Okay, so let's begin. First of all, we are going to discuss about the poet Pablo Neruda. Pablo Neruda, born on 12 July 1904 and died on 23 September 1973. His full name is Ricardo Elisa Neftali Reyes de Salto and his pen name is Pablo Neruda. He was a children poet. He won Nobel Prize for Literature in 1971. He started writing poems when he was 13. In this poem, Neruda talks about the necessity of keeping quiet. How keeping quiet is very important for human beings. This is what Pablo Neruda talks in this poem. So line by line explanation has already been done. So let us go through the explanation. Look at the first stanza. Now we will count to 12 and we will keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's talk for 1 second and not move our arms so much. Now we will count up to 12. So the poet says that in the first stanza, the poet asks us to keep quiet and introspect for this shortest duration of time, which would take in counting from 1 to 12. What is the significance of the title Keeping Quiet? So the title Keeping Quiet emphasizes the necessity of introspection and creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. It conveys Neruda's philosophy of an exotic moment of silence and inactivity, which can an antidote to war, violence, hatred, exploitation and turmoil. By keeping quiet, mankind can try to understand itself and stop harming itself with death and destruction. Thus, the title is very appropriate. So this way we can justify the title Keeping Quiet. So here keeping quiet means doing introspection, introspecting ourselves. So the title conveys the message of universal peace and tranquility. Now we will count to 12 and we will keep still. So the poet says we have to keep quiet in the shortest duration of time, which takes in counting from 1 to 12. So here the poet chose number 12 because there are 12 number of hours in a day, 12 months in a year and 12 zodiac signs. So this span of time will calm everyone, all ready for introspection. For once on the surface of the earth, let's not speak in any language. So as languages are barriers, no comprehension ideas, no understanding of each other, neither verbal or sign language. So that is why the poet emphasizes that we should not, during introspection, let us not talk in any language, whether it is verbal language or it is sign language. Let's stop for 1 second and not to move our arms so much. So arms is here an instance of pun. In puns, duplicacy of sense is created because of the unity of sound. Arm here stands for the body parts as well as weaponry. So that is why arm here is a pun. All keep still, no activity, all calm and ready to listen, no chaos, look introverts and introspect. Okay, so in the first stanza the poet asks us to introspect ourselves for the short duration of time. For this span of time, let us not do anything, let us not move our body parts, let us not use any weapon, let us be quiet and introspect ourselves so that we can understand the actions done by us, at what extent it is correct. It would be an exotic moment. Exotic moment means a new kind of happenings that one has not experienced before. It would be an exotic moment when we all are meditating, without rush, without engines. Rush means here competition. Without competition, without engines, we would all be together in a sudden strangeness. So we have got the selfishness out of us. So this way we will bring out the selfishness from us, and a new feeling of togetherness, unity, belongings will be created. So in these lines the poet speaks about the beauty of the stillness and silence which he recommends for his readers. He says that it would be an exotic moment in which the cosmic pace of life will halt, and so will the engines. By using the word exotic, he sensualizes this moment of inactivity for us, during which people would be freed of their rush to get from point A to point B, and will get a break from the rat race which all of our lives have been reduced to in this modern world. By referring to the world in which engines have halted, narrow dice, indicating towards a reversal of the dehumanization aftermath of industrialization and mechanization, which has made societies greedy and individuals self-centered. So this is what the poet talks about in these lines. Once all our activities and the incessant flood of interpersonal communication stops, the world will come together. So this coming together of the world will be one kind of union, something that the world has not been or experienced before. Further, next stanza. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Neruda has attempted to establish a harmony between the tyrants and the oppressed. The fisherman here stands for the exploitative class of people, and the whale stands for the oppressed. The poet hopes that keeping quiet would bring in a rush of introspection. and in an attempt to understand oneself and the world around. The metaphoric hunter would become kind to his prey. That is, people will stop causing each other hurt. So if you live by harming others, stop harming. This is the symbolic of oppress. Would not harm well. So here well stands for destroying nature. And the man gathering salt. So man gathering salt stands for the person who are being oppressed. So if you live by harming yourself, stop gathering. Symbolic of oppressed. His hurt hand. So this is an instance of alliteration. Once the chain of introspection begins, man, represented here by the salt gatherer, will begin to reflect upon the ups and downs that he has gone through in the course of his life, along with the lessons that he has learnt in the process, represented here by the hurt hands. Now, those who prepare green wars. So you prepare green wars. So green wars refers to deforestation, manufacturers, nature of wars, man-made wars, with wars with gas, wars with fires. So wars with gas and wars with fire refers the damage done by the conventional chemical and biological weapon. Green wars, wars with gases, with fire can be stopped if and when governments and nations teach themselves to keep quiet. Victory with no survivors. So victory with no survivors is an example of irony. Victory is meant for the celebration and happiness for the people. At the same time, when victory proceeds with no one left to enjoy it, becomes a curse. If no survivor is left to enjoy the happiness of victory, total victory is of no use altogether. Their brothers, and walk about with their brothers. So brothers here refer to be united as one. Consider our enemy to be our brother. In the shade, doing nothing. Shade, go out in the lap of nature. That is shade. Yeah. So in the complete stanza, the poet says, by green wars, Neruda is referring to the calculated onslaught on nature that humans have been making in the name of modernization, leading to the phenomena of decadence and environmental degradation such as global warming. Exercising a moment, inactivity will also bring a stop to all the ongoing welfare among nations. Neruda mocks such wars with bring victory at the cost of human lives and basic humanity. If the people engaged in welfare on and off the field can just indulge in nothingness for a bit, the soldiers can discard their blood-stained uniforms and recognize fellow soldiers on the other side of battlefields as brother. Okay. Now next stanza. What I want should not be confused with the total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. So here, what I want should not be confused. So here further the poets gives the clarification on what the poet has said. It cannot be taken otherwise. Here with the total inactivity means he does not want us to stop our works but to take some time and analyze the results of our deeds. The poet does not want us to stop our work. Instead, the poet wants us to analyze our actions, analyze the results of our deeds. Life is about activity. It is an ongoing process. Trut means agreement. In the complete stanza, the poet urges his readers to not confuse this state of dormancy with the total inactivity. Because although they will be physically still and quiet, their mind that will be at work. Silence will help us charm out pearls of recognition, which will bear the power to change the world. An absolute physical and mental stillness will be akin to death, and the poet says he wants nothing to do with it. His purpose is to foster life through introspection and reflection. His dictum in favor of rest should not be confused with the eternal rest. Okay, this is what the poet says in this stanza. Now, if we were not be single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves, of threatening ourselves with death. So if we were not so single-minded here means narrow-minded, too involved in materialistic pursuits, keeping our lives moving. It is the tragedy of the modern world where people are too busy to live. Huge silence means introspection. Sadness refers, man's sadness is frowned by his own thoughts and actions, threatening ourselves. So the realization of not understanding themselves make them helpless and sad. So as humans, we suffer from collective narrow-mindedness in the way that that all our actions can be linked to our survival instinct in our struggle to achieve all our goals before death takes to hold us. We become so engrossed with the materialistic aims and responsibilities that we never stop to stare at ourselves and the work around us. The fear of death and the related survival instinct are so strong that in this mad rush they do not realize the repercussions of their acts. Neruda says by exploring our real selves away from the clutches of all the surface desires, we can tap into the treasure trove of happiness that can only be unlocked through the self-realization. Now moving to the last stanza. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. So here, earth can teach us means This is an instance of personification. Earth is given the human attribute of teaching here, and extended metaphor can also be inferred. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. So here the stillness which Neruda advocates is being compared to the stillness of winter. Just like winter leads to rejuvenation, even the quietness recommended by Neruda leads to regrowth. The poet asks us to take lessons of dormancy from Mother Nature. During winter, life seems too strange, as ice covers everything and sucks all traces of life. However, what seems dead at one instant actually blossom into life with the onset of spring. What the poet is implying here is that stillness is always succeeded by a period of rejuvenation. Hence, we must not be scared of being in the still and keeping quiet. Just as nature has shown us our apparent inactivity will be awarded eventual growth and prosperity. Okay? So, in the conclusive lines, the poet quietly leaves the scene after intimating a process of introspection. After initiating a process of introspection and reflection within us. Now that he has unloaded his message onto our minds, his work as a poet is over. It is upon us now to follow his dictum in order to lead a meaningful existence in which we can benefit both an individual and a social level. So this is all about the poem. Now let us discuss the poetic devices used in the various stanzas. In stanza 1, as we can see, assonance, use of vowel sound O and E has been made prominent. Now we will count to 12, not to move our arms so much. Anaphora, 2 consecutive lines starting with the word let's. Alliteration, the repetition of a consonant sound at the start of 2 or more closely placed word like we will, W is repeated here. Stanza 2, once again alliteration, we would, W sound is repeated. Sudden strangeness, alliteration. His hurt hands, alliteration. Symbolism, there are abundant of symbolism has been used in keeping quiet. Fisherman and whale stands for the oppressor and oppressed respectively. Salt gatherer is symbolic of humanity, whereas clean clothes symbolize peace. In stanza 3 also, alliteration, wars with, so W sound is repeated, clean clothes, C sound is repeated. Assonance, once again use of vowel O, victory with no survivor, so O sound has been made prominent here. Would put on clean clothes and walk about their brothers. Okay, so assonance has been used here, and repetition as the word war has been repeated. In stanza 4, once again alliteration, we were so single-minded. Okay, stanza 5, personification, the earth has been personified, the earth can teach us. Okay, so it's all about the poem and the poetic devices, dear students. So thank you for watching this video lesson. In the next video lesson we will discuss the MCQs based on this book.